Hi, this is Xyston. I'm bringing you the first of the DBMM Army reviews, and we're starting off with one of the best, the Seleucid Army in Book 2. It's a great army. It wins lots of competition, so very competitive, particularly in Book 2, so very good against the Roman armies that you will see lots of in that competition. Why is it so good? Okay, it's very powerful. It's got very good infantry, not just the Pike, but auxiliary as well, and superior Pike and superior auxiliaries. It's got 3 different types of knight. So that means that whatever you go up against, you've got the right tool to be able to take on their knights. And it's also got lots of fun options. So if you want elephants, if you want scythe chariots, it's got everything that you would want to be able to play around with. In general, it's very balanced, so it can handle terrain and it can handle flat battles. It can handle any opponent. And it's regular army, so it's very flexible. Tactically, you can move the troops about without using too many pips. Usually it'll win through quick kill from the knights and the matchups that you can do on different troop types. It's unlikely to be bigger than your enemy, so it won't really be wider and be able to envelop them. Well, it's not really designed for attrition. I mean, all its troops are tough, but they are designed to kill, not to be killed. So normally won't have long attrition battles, and it's not the most strategically mobile, so you probably won't be outflanking, particularly against some of the CV or light horse armies that you might face. So an excellent army. Let's have a look at what it looks like. I've picked for you one of my favorite lineups, but there are lots of different ones that and lots of different options that you can play around with. Very flexible list, very good army. So let's look in detail at the list. It's 200 BC because you can have all 3 different types of knight after 205 BC. Before then, you're limited in your choices. It's aggression 2, that means you might need to be the defender or the attacker. So you need to have the flexibility to be able to handle both of those, to be able to operate in terrain as well as out of terrain. We've got 3 regular commands here, and that will be the normal pattern. You don't need the allies, and there's not too many good ally choices for the Seleucids. So there's firstly Command A, the shock mounted wing. This is what will usually win the battle for you, with all your knights in there with the supporting troops. In your Command B, we've got our reserve, and here we have auxiliary S reserve and some shock knights as well. Finally, Command C, the Pike Phalanx, so tough troops. They can create breakthroughs, they can support the mounted wing, and generally a very tough command. You'll see this command's pretty optimized for the breakpoints, so it is 32, 32 and 20 for the ME. So giving us a total army ME of 90. So pretty tough to kill that many of these guys, and optimized. You got the 2 big commands to do the heavy fighting, and also the pick dump reserve, who we can use flexibly. So that's what the list looks like. Let's have a look at the troops. Having those 3 different types of knights is one of the stars of the Seleucid army, so that you can match them up. So the Knight X against the enemy CV, the wedge knights against deep infantry formations, and the Knight F as a sudden breakthrough. So this is how the army would normally be deployed. You would have the Pike Phalanx up front, and alongside it the mounted shock wing. So those are the 2 fighting forces of your troops. The 3rd command would be deployed behind in reserve, able to either stay in the centre supporting the front line, or move left and right as the flanking dictated and the terrain dictated. Now let's dive in and have a look at the Pike Phalanx command. So on the flank we have the Thracians, the irregular auxiliary S. Their job is to protect the flank of the Pike Phalanx. The Pike Phalanx are both S and O troops in 4 ranks deep, with light troops supporting behind, 1 auxiliary S and 4 Cretan Seloi O providing flexibility. They could come out in order to shield the front of the phalanx if they needed to manage the first hit, for example against Blade with the Romans, or they can just be there to add some flexibility and avoid getting flanked. Finally, we've got a couple of horde to march block to make it harder for enemy to get round the Pike Phalanx. They'd normally be deployed in the centre, Pike Phalanx grinding forwards, the Thracians protecting the side. Looking in more detail at the troops, the Thracians irregular auxiliary S at 4 points are one of the best values in the game. Pike S at 5 points are also great value, can take anything on frontally, and Pike O we have maxed out on the Pike S. We've got 12 of those, that is the maximum that you can have, and we have been a lot more restrained, only 7 Pike O. Next, looking at the shock mounted wing. So this would normally be deployed next door to the infantry command. To start off with, we have the Wedge Knights, very effective at taking on big blocks of infantry. And next to them we have the Knight F, so they are able to provide some extra punch against CVs, for instance. And then we have our 4 Cataphracts, which are very good against CV and provide the punching power in our army. Finally, protecting the flank, we have the Light Horse O and the Light Horse F. Some march blockers behind the 2 horde to prevent things getting around the side, and we've got our supporting line of Seloi. They can either take terrain or protect a flank, or plug gaps in the line temporarily to prevent hard flankings from the mounted if we lose some of those knights. So that's the shock mounted wing, intended to do the bulk of the fighting and to break the enemy with the strength of their charge. In total we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 knights there deployed line abreast, so this is fighting pretty wide at sort of 11 elements deep. The Pike Phalanx command was only about fighting in about 8 elements deep, so that gives us an army frontage of about 20. We have the companion cavalry. These are regular Knight F in wedge, very effective, particularly against deep blocks of infantry. Warband, very effective against auxiliary or blade, very effective against. Just have to watch for them getting penetrating too deep and getting hard flanked. We have got the maximum that we can in this army with 4 Knight F wedge, and our generals are also Knight F. So general in the middle, taking advantage of the lethal general spread to both sides. These figures are one of the best. Xyston do excellent figures for this era. In this era, our line cavalry are Knight Fs. We only have 2 of them. They are to be used against CV, where our Knight Wedge can't quick kill, and so are an effective add to our armory. They are much more fragile than the Wedge Knights because they can be overlapped, so to be used with a bit more care. These figures are also Xyston. Our Cataphracts, regular Knight X, so very flexible. They are to be used to break the enemy CV. Very good against CV because they win on draws and quick kill. They don't pursue, so they have a bit more staying power because they don't get overlapped quite as easily. They can go in against Roman legionaries or auxiliaries because the Seloi don't get the support against them. But a bit vulnerable, they do count as eye against enemy knights, so try and keep them away from the enemy knights, engage the enemy knights with our knights fast. Particularly our knight fast wedge are good against enemy knights. These figures are from Lurkio. I think they're the Sarmatian Cataphracts from Lurkio. Now turning to the reserve command B, we have 4 horde in this command, 2 on each edge for the wings. We have some light horse I, we have our wedge knights, and we have our Thracians, the auxiliary S, regular auxiliary S, very solid and flexible infantry. That's the fire brigade, and the knights also provide the punch if we need them at a key point. The Thracians are very flexible troops, regular auxiliary S. They can't really stand up to knights in the open, but they can respond to most other situations. These troops are Old Glory. The Bedouin Scouts, irregular light horse I, very cheap at only 3 points and can very quickly cover a gap or protect a flank, so very cost-effective troops. I think these figures are from Museum Miniatures. Next we have the Horde. These figures I think are Old Glory, so very cheap, only 1 point each, and they can march block, so effective at stopping things. Finally, our baggage I, that is from the... These are very nice figures from Museum Miniatures, probably more appropriate for baggage fast. So that's the overall Seleucid army in one of my favourite configurations. You've got the shock wing with the knights, you've got the solid Pike Phalanx, and a very flexible reserve. However, one of the core strengths of the Seleucid list is the number of different options and the troop types that you've got. Many different ways to configure the list, playing to the different strengths of the Seleucid army. I consider the wedge knights and the pike as core. However, discretionary troops, there's the 6 auxiliary S and 2 knights fast, and that represents 52 points that we could replace with different options. What are some of the different options we could use instead of those 52 points? Firstly, we could replace them with a couple of elephants with the Seloi supporting units to protect them a little bit. The reason I left these out was because we don't really need the anti-knight protection. The Seleucid army with the pikes and the massed knights are pretty good against knights. 2 elephants would be very effective behind an infantry line for frightening off knights, but we don't really need them in the Seleucid. And they're just a bit clumsy and irregular compared to what we need. Moving on to the next option that we have is the Galatians. So the 4 CVO are very handy, and the Warband S will strike fear into the legions because they quick kill legions. So 4 Warband S. Next option we could have would be to max out on Cataphracts. We've got 4 Knight X in the list. We could add another 4 Knight X to bring it up to the maximum 8. Very powerful, but perhaps overkill and not flexible enough compared to our option. Final option is the to increase the pikes. So we can add more Pike O in fairly unlimited quantities, so adding another 12 Pike O would make this a very Pike heavy army. So those are the 4 possible options: the elephants and the escorts at 36 points, the Galatians at 41 points, adding the 4 Cataphracts at 52 points and adding the 12 Pike at 48 points, and switching out the Auxiliary S and the Knight F and maybe some supporting troops from the list that we presented. So that's the Seleucid list. Excellent army, very powerful, very balanced, very flexible, lots and lots of different options that you can play around with as well, and have your own version of the list. Have a look at it, play around with it. So in the comment section, please, what's your own favourite Seleucid list? What troop types do you really think should be in there? What have I got wrong in my list? Secondly, any other armies that you'd like to see me review, then please put it in the comments list and subscribe so that I can let you know when there are new videos posted. Okay, thank you and see you next time.